Time refuses to erase the name Zodiac. It lingers in archives, in whispered stories, in data files stored on government servers. For decades, evidence sat sealed in boxes, photographs yellowed with age, fingerprints smudged beyond use. But today, a new kind of detective is opening those boxes again, not with a magnifying glass, but with code. This next chapter is about unlocking the past through technology. Because what if the answer has been there all along, hidden not by the mystery, but by time? When we hear the term digital forensics, we often think of hackers, deleted emails, or encrypted drives. But digital forensics has grown far beyond the computer. It's the practice of extracting information from anything, any medium, that can be transferred into data. In the case of the Zodiac, that means every letter, every cipher, and every audio trace can be digitized and examined in microscopic mathematical detail. Imagine treating a piece of paper like a living document. Every fiber, every indentation, every ink particle recorded and analyzed. The science doesn't just stop at computers anymore. Machines now detect chemical residues invisible to the human eye. Software reads tonal signatures in voices. Programs can analyze handwriting, not just for shape, but for rhythm and pressure, revealing personality markers unique to an individual. These methods combine chemistry, linguistics, physics, and artificial intelligence. Together, they create a kind of time machine for evidence, one that can be re examined and find out the Zodiac's trail with new eyes. Some of the most exciting tools include spectral analysis, which reads like a microscopic wavelength patterns of ink and paper to determine their age and origin. Linguistic modeling uses algorithms to compare writing styles across vast text databases, looking for unconscious habits of phrasing. Even acoustic forensics can reprocess old recordings like police phone calls from the time of the murders, cleaning out the audio and isolating background clues that early investigators missed. All this means that we no longer have to rely only on eyewitness memory or degraded fingerprints. The past itself has become a database waiting to be queried. Let's return to the dusty shelves of the evidence room. Inside those folders are copies of the Zodiac letters that were sent to major newspapers like the San Francisco Chronicle or the San Francisco Examiner. There are the infamous cryptograms written in strange looping symbols, crime scene photos from Lake Berryessa or Blue Rock Springs, handwriting samples like and paper scraps and postage stamps. Each of those tells a story, but only partially. For decades, investigators saw only what the naked eye could show. Now, with computers are helping us see beyond that. Spectral imaging scans can differentiate between ink batches, identifying whether the Zodiac used multiple pens or brands, or even refills within the same letter. It also could reveal if certain notes that we've always assumed were authentic were actually written by someone else. Microscopic paper fibers can also be compared to manufacturing records, potentially pinpointing where and when the stationery was made. Then there are the ciphers. Once thought unsolvable, they're now being revisited through cryptic analysis, aided by machine learning. Programs can simulate millions of combinations per second, detecting logistics probabilities and grammatical tendencies hidden in the symbol patterns, approaches unthinkable in the 1970s. Even the envelope tells a story. The adhesive residue examined under a digital microscope could show traces of saliva, gum coating, or surface particles from a specific location. Particulate analysis might one day trace dust back to a geographic area, narrowing the killer's movements. And what about crime scene photos? Image enhancement technology has improved dramatically. High resolution scanning can reveal overlooked textures, glove impressions that are left on car doors, faint footprints, and fibers embedded in victims' clothing, all once too faint to be useful. Everywhere we once saw nothing, we're starting to see something. It's quite a revelation, not just a discovery, but a rediscovery. And what could all this uncover? Imagine the handwriting comparison program that doesn't just look at the letter, but analyzes motion curves, spacing rhythm, and angular consistency. If connected to a public database of digital handwritten material like tax forms, military applications, or archived letters, it theoretically could locate matches hidden among millions of samples. Suppose spectral analysis confirms that several Zodiac letters were written on a paper from a batch sold only in one region. That detail there could shrink the suspect pool drastically. Or what if a digital fingerprint reconstruction, a technique in early development, successfully restores a partial ridge lifted from an old envelope? That could provide a direct match to the suspect that's been long dismissed. These are not fantasies, they are on the horizon. But the reality of cold case work is never that simple. Time exacts a heavy price. Evidence degrades, chain of custody complicates re examination of things. Privacy laws shield much of the genetic data needed for matches. Even the best AI cannot compensate for missing samples or contaminated prints. And yet, each small advancement, each reprocessed file, carries the potential to undo decades of uncertainty. But with every hope comes a deeper question. If the technology one day names the Zodiac, will it settle anything? Or will it open new divides, arguments, or interpretations on accountability and truth itself? Because even if we learn his name, the mystery behind why he did it and how he disappears so seamlessly may remain forever out of reach. The story of the Zodiac is not just about a killer who eluded justice, it's about the evolution of investigation itself. Digital forensics has fundamentally changed the fight against crime. What began as a response to computer hacking has become the backbone of modern detective work. And now it's extending its reach backward through time, breathing digital life into cases that once seemed lost to dust. Across the world, unidentified remains are being matched to families through genetic genealogy. Historical documents are being authenticated or exposed as forgeries using spectral imaging. Audio archives are yielding new clues through noise filtering and waveform analysis. The tools being honed on the Zodiac case are now being applied everywhere, from war crime investigations to forgotten missing person reports. But with that, power comes responsibility. We stand at an era where algorithms can resurrect a murderer's voice, recreate handwritten notes in computational detail, and even simulate how a crime scene once looked. The ethical questions are profound. Is there a line between solving a case and reanimating its ghosts? How much should the public know? And when does curiosity become an intrusion? For all its cold logic, digital forensics is intimate. It bridges the living and the lost. It forces us to remember that behind every byte and every pixel, every result, there are real human stories, victims, families, and lives left unfinished. So, as we conclude tonight's episode, consider this. What happens when every secret eventually becomes discoverable? What does closure look like in a world where no mystery is safe from being solved? For more than 50 years after the first Zodiac killing, his name still holds us. Maybe it's not because we fear him, but because we see ourselves reflected in our attempts to understand him. Every theory, every cipher, every documentary is another piece of that reflection, a shared effort to make sense of the senselessness. Digital forensics may one day unmask the Zodiac, just as it continues to solve other forgotten crimes. But the greater revelation lies in how we chase these answers. It shows that even after decades, we believe truth is worth pursuing, that technology, for all its cold precision, is still driven by a deeply human need to know. And now that you've listened to this, the real question turns to you. What do you see in the Zodiac's mystery? Do you believe technology will solve what time could not? Or is this an enigma destined to endure, reminding us that some puzzles exist to be pondered, but not solved? Comment your theories down below in the comment section. I'm John.